Hello, everyone. Welcome. It's Monday. It's Natty time, and we are here live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can catch us on all three platforms. It's Bryce Kuhn, Will Mannis, and Ralph Leary, the original three. Well, I'll say the original one, and then the additions to the we have the OG Chopaholic squad, and then we have Ralph. So there we go. Well, that never really took off the ground, I don't think.
No, it didn't. We weren't very consistent, so.
We weren't, but hey, we did interview Matt Marksberry, and we interviewed Christian Pache. So there, at least we have that. We have an interview with Christian Pache.
By we, Bryce means him.
Yeah,
yeah. I think you wrote 2 articles. It was like a Marlins series recap.
And I did one about a trade. I can't remember what trade it was. Melanson, I think.
Well, guys,
I think the Melanson trade.
Was it Melanson trade?
I think so.
It might have been. It might have been.
We're gonna have to go through the
listen,
archive.
guys. We are going to talk today. It is obviously Blogspot, a little Blogspot action. Can't believe we were ever on Blogspot. Holy cow! Anyways, it's Bryce Kuhn, Will Mannis, alongside Ralph Leary as well. Ralph's also part of the show. Ralph, we appreciate you joining in today. You weren't able to be a part of the podcast on Thursday night. You had to go to work, but I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it.
I did.
It was fun.
Finally.
Shout out to JT Holton. I know he takes me after saying, "Hey, guys, had a fun time." Will, what was your biggest takeaway from the podcast, and why should people go listen to it?
It was. I mean, we covered so many different grounds. I mean, football, baseball, a life. Had kind of talked about the podcast with the other 2 Not Combination guys. I mean, so. There's a lot. I mean, there's just about anything you want in that podcast.
There's anything that you could possibly dream of talking about, from the best college towns. Ralph, we did hit on that. Some of the best college towns. We talked about a little bit about Auburn, a little bit about the Braves.
We did not bring up Troy.
We didn't talk about the Jags. We did not bring up Troy. We talked about the Jags, though. We did talk about JT's a big Jaguars fan, so we talked about that. But listen, as you know, we start every single show off with a question. And this week, this question was sent in by a fan. So I'm gonna bring it up right here. And we are going to roll with it. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Prepared.
Let's see if she works. If you had to make one dessert to eat as a dessert, don't even worry about the fact this person did not spell it correctly. But if you had to eat one dessert as a dessert for the rest of your life, what would it be? I'm going to go in there and change that right now. But guys, what would it be if you had to eat a dessert? I want to hear first. We'll go to Ralph. We'll go to Ralph. If you could only eat one dessert for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I had to say chocolate chip cookies, I guess.
Chocolate chip cookies.
That's a good one.
Will, this is not as entertaining as the sandwich ones.
I'm gonna go with one that I don't eat enough, and I need to eat more of because I love it, and it's the best dessert ever made. Banana pudding.
Mm-hmm.
Love banana pudding.
Banana pudding. Now. It depends on where you're from. Is it banana pudding or is banana pudding?
Pudding.
Will says banana pudding. Will says a banana pudding. Well, listen, pudding. Well, I'll tell you this, guys. When you get down to what type of desserts, apple pie is fantastic to me. Like hot apple pie. Now you can eat it cold too. I'll eat it cold. But when you get a hot apple pie and then you take a scoop of vanilla ice cream right on top, I'm telling you one thing: nothing better. Nothing better than apple pie and vanilla ice cream. So, Ralph, you went with chocolate chip cookies. You can't go wrong with those. Timeless classic. Santa Claus enjoys those. Will, you went with the banana pudding. Do you like vanilla wafers in it, though? That's the big thing.
Yes. Have to. It's not banana pudding without vanilla wafers. I don't know what it is.
We got to bring in a comment. We have we have Mr. Brooks Austin who comments, what a topic. Brooks, if you tune in each week, this is what we talk about to lead off the show right here. We talk about last week.
We're a sports show.
Sandwiches. We're a sports show. Talks about favorite lunch sandwiches. That was the most well-received one, though. Austin Bradley comes in with the retweet. Austin, I need you to clarify. What are you retweeting? Are you tweeting banana pudding? You're tweeting apple pie?
Sure it's banana pudding.
I think he's banana pudding.
Banana pudding? I don't know if you guys heard me, but is it banana pudding or is it pudding?
Pudding.
Pudding. Puddin. Pudding.
Is that just because of where we're from, I'm guessing?
No, it's just how
that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's called. I mean, like, yeah, on the lunch when you had to go pick hot lunch or something at the store or something like that. But like, I mean, at school. But like, I think it's the definition is pudding.
I don't know what pudding is. I only
What
know
is
what
pudding?
pudding is.
Pudding, pudding.
My favorite part
Oh,
is Bryce is just so worked up about this. It's pudding.
It's pudding.
I'm very worked up about it.
Banana
I'm very
pudding.
worked up about it.
Do you
Well,
say
listen,
banana
it is.
pudding?
I don't. Okay, my grandmother used to make a great banana pudding, but she put vanilla wafers in it, and it was fantastic. I mean, that's all I gotta say. But she had to hide the vanilla wafers from my dad because he would eat all of them. So he would just eat them. Now I could eat vanilla wafers out of the box. Like,
Oh
Yeah, they
to me,
they
vanilla
tie,
wafers
they
are
make the
fantastic.
whole dish. They
Mhm.
tie it all together.
Because if you just threw I mean, let's really think about it. It just has like this like snot-like texture. If you don't put any,
What?
Why'd you
like
say-
if you don't
why'd
put
you say
anything in
it
there,
like
it's just like
What?
banana pudding is a snot-like texture.
No.
What?
Don't disgrace that.
If you don't have it in there, you agree?
What?
No.
If you don't have
No.
if you
It's
don't
pudding,
have
isn't it?
if you don't have the vanilla wafers in there, then yeah, what does pudding look like?
I don't. What kind of pudding are
I'm
you
just
eating
saying.
these days?
A thick gelatin. That's what it is. A thick
Yeah.
gelatin.
I think gelatin. Yeah. And I don't even want to get into what Jello's made out of. God knows. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about some other topics. This obviously was a terrible question that the person asked. We had to have it on the show. I'll even bring in another question because that was so bad.
Dude.
We're going to bring in another one because that was a stupid question, and Ralph looked like he had never been asked anything about anything before when he was going to answer it. Would you rather fight
There we go.
one
Yes.
horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? We're going back-to-back double-dip questions because it is Natty time. So on today's special episode of Natty Time, we're getting 2 questions in. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? Ralph, first, what you going with?
100 duck-sized horses. Because I can just kick them.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, they would overrun you.
No,
I got my answer, though.
No.
We'll keep going.
I'm
No.
kicking them, dude.
It's 100 duck-sized horses for a couple of reasons. Number one, ducks are mean and they're evil, and I do not want to fight a horse-sized duck. I don't even like the idea of fighting a duck-sized duck.
Think about
don't
it,
wanna
a
be-
horse-sized duck that flies too.
Yeah, I don't want to be around a
So it's a
duck
unicorn.
without a shotgun anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
100
Hopefully,
duck-sized.
PETA doesn't come shut us down.
That's
I have my
Well-
answer, and I'll tell you why. I heard this one time, so it's not my original, but I heard it from somebody. In this question, there's a simple answer. The simple answer is 100 duck-sized horses. You know how you don't get overrun of them? You back yourself into a stall, and you just stand on top of the toilet. You put 2 hands on it, and you just start kicking. They can't ever get to you. You just continue to go on and on. That's exactly how you do it.
Okay. Pretty sure that's what I just said, though.
This is possibly one of the worst shows we've
Can we
ever
move
had.
on?
All right,
Can we
we're
move
going to
on?
get into talking a little bit. The questions were terrible. Shout out to Trey Alexander that decided to send in 2 questions for the show specifically today, and so that is what he decided to go with. We're going to talk about the national championship, though. I think that the biggest thing when you look at this game, it's tonight, 8:00. I want to bring in somebody's comment real quick because they interrupted. Russell Forthofer. Just think of a flying horse-sized
Flying
horse.
horse-sized horse.
That is Russell. That is a unicorn, a flying
terrifying.
horse-sized horse.
I'm terrified.
Also, oddly, Will doesn't want any smoke with a horse-sized duck. No, he does not. That would
Nope.
be absolutely terrifying. But that
Nope.
would be absolutely terrifying. We're going to talk about the national championship, though. Obviously, Alabama versus Ohio State. I almost forgot because I don't even think the game's going to matter. No, I'm just kidding. It's going to be a good game. I think I really do. But when you look at this game, guys, and you kind of see exactly, what is kind of the keys to the game. We're going to get into offense versus defense versus offense. But for Ohio State to be successful, I think the bottom line is you can't let Alabama they're going to score most often not. You got to come up with like 1 or 2 big stops or force a turnover. Ralph, you and I talked about this yesterday. Your defense is going to have to make a big play, and they're going to have to get a big 3rd down stop, or they're going to have to force a turnover because Alabama is more often than not going to score most of the time. Meanwhile, you also have to match them every single time they score. and take advantage if you do force that turnover. So we'll talk about the game, but first I want to bring in a tweet that Josh Pate tweeted today. He's a good friend of the show and everything, and he talked about some people who are just absolutely disgusted that the national championship is here. Now, Will, I don't know if you saw this tweet because you follow Josh, you see this, but for people who are frustrated, I mean, and I want to get this correct because the article stated, if I'm not mistaken, it stated that thank God this season has finally come to an end. What would you say to the people who are the Debbie Downers of the world that are like, thank the Lord that this season's almost over? Because to me, like Josh Pate said, today's a great day for all the people who wanted to see college football happen. We didn't know if it was going to happen, but man, we're here. January 11th is here. Everybody's in Miami, as far as we know. Hey, I mean, it's going to. We got a great game. We got a great matchup. It's going to be fun. Will, for you, what would you say to those people who are saying the naysayers of college football that are saying, "Oh gosh, thank God it's over"?
I told you so. I knew there would be a season. I knew for multiple reasons. The big one is, not the happy, joyful reason is there's too much money involved. They were going to find a way to play. That's just the reality. And I think we've seen how important football is just to people, their well-being, their mental health. I mean, everything. I mean, 2020 was the worst year ever, and college football helped make it end on a positive note.
Ralph, I'll go with you now. What do you think? How do you see this year and what's going on with it? I mean, we got through the season. We got to a game that's, to me, pits two teams really good against each other. A lot of people said Ohio State shouldn't have belonged. We were part of people who said that. But Ohio State showed against Clemson they can compete with the big dogs. And I don't think we questioned that. It's just they didn't play the full slate. But now we got a great matchup. For you, what does it mean to kind of get to January 11th and see college football have their national title?
I'm thinking it's a cap of the year for them, and to make it this far and to make it to the national championship game shows how a great job actually college football did. Now, the Big Ten obviously started later, and some other conferences started later, but the ACC, the SEC, Sun Belt, all Conference USA, American Conference, all of those did a great job of sticking through everything, going through all the proper steps to keep the players safe at all times. I know we had a lot of COVID cases, probably more than most other sports did, but I think that NCAA did a really good job at the beginning of the year to set rules and to have a plan for the rest of the whole year, honestly, until the national championship game. And that shows tonight that we're going to have a game tonight. So
they weathered the storm. It's no doubt that there was a storm involved with what college football was experiencing. They had the cases, but props, and I'll say this too, not to the Big Ten. I give no props to the Big Ten on what they did. They almost ruined the season for their selected teams. They really did. But props to the SEC, the ACC. Not going to go to the Pac-12, but I'll say SEC, ACC of the Power Five and Big 12, and then to the group of five teams that chose to play: Sun Belt, Conference USA, American Conference, that chose, and they gave themselves an opportunity to reschedule games. We saw in the SEC teams for the first time ever, there was more than just one SEC game on SEC title day. We saw almost a full slate of SEC schedules. Will, to you, when you saw what these conferences did looking back, I think it was crazy to think, oh my gosh, we're not going to start the SEC schedule till like September 20th or 23rd or something like that. What can you say about how they handled that looking back now? Hindsight is, man, that was a great idea because you gave yourself time to figure out what you wanted to do, and then you still gave yourself a time if you needed to reschedule some games. I think it was, 2 games out of the entire SEC slate that didn't even get played. One was Georgia-Vandy, which Vandy obviously didn't even want to play, and then I think one was another one that we didn't get to see. But for you, what did you see from the SEC and other conferences that made you so impressed with how they handled the situation?
First of all, was patience. I mean, I feel like, in the world we live in now, everybody wants everything right now. And the patience that they showed was just a great lesson to everybody. It's the old saying, good things come to those who wait. And the SEC did that, and everybody waited patiently. And, when I remember when they first announced the schedule, it sounded right to me in my head because that's normally when SEC games start, September. Week 1 is not normally when they play conference games. So they gave themselves, the SEC especially, playing a conference-only schedule, which I didn't agree with initially, but it worked out, I think, for the best. ACC and Big 12 played some non-conference games, and as far as I know, I don't think there was any COVID-related issues with them, which is an awesome thing. So yeah, patience. That's the big
patience was the biggest thing. I think when you look back at how these teams did this, they showed patience. I mean, the Big Ten almost ruined a chance for them to go to the national championship. And I think Ohio State is one of the 4 top teams in the country. People felt like they didn't play enough games. Big 12 got some non-conference games in there. The ACC, SEC, the ACC played non-conference. The SEC did not. And for people who were complaining, and I'll say this from knowing a little bit about it, when people who are complaining about why in the world is Georgia not playing Georgia Tech? Why is Florida State not playing Florida? Well, it's because conferences wanted control over their own standards. And if you didn't meet that, and it was all about having control over that. The SEC wanted control over every aspect, so that's why they kept it within conference. The ACC was willing to do that, and if you remember, the ACC went first and said, hey, we'll allow for an 11-game schedule, 10 ACC games. We also brought in Notre Dame, which is a phenomenal thing in hindsight. Personally, Notre Dame, they didn't meet up to par with Alabama, but who does? I mean, who really does on a mano-a-mano basis? But Notre Dame put themselves in a conference, and I, for one, respected them getting in the playoff because they did have to play a conference championship game. They kind of split, which is a very hard thing to do against a great Clemson team. They split 1-1. They won the regular season. Obviously, the Tigers won the championship game. But I grew respect. Ralph, when you look at how maybe some of the Group of 5 teams, I know we were hearing a lot of Sunbelt and Conference USA kind of. You want to say the little brothers of the ACC and the SEC geographically, but they just said, we're going to play. We sat down and watched. It was one of the first games. UAB played Central Arkansas in the first game of the season, and that's Conference USA. They did everything they could, and I want to go back and see because I think the Sun Belt tried to get everybody to at least 12 games. It felt like they may have played the most games out of everybody when 2020 was all kind of done and over.
Well, yeah, exactly what you just said. I'm pretty sure when Coastal Carolina was supposed to play Liberty one week, Liberty had a lot of COVID cases where they couldn't play, and they ended up scheduling BYU last minute, week of a game, and it shows you they were ready to play anyone. And that's the whole thing with BYU. We want to play everybody. We'll play anybody. They didn't want to play. I think Washington was a team that wanted to schedule them that didn't work out, and BYU went and played Coastal Carolina and got beat. The Sun Belt, Conference USA, American Conference, they were ready to play anybody. They didn't care. And the Group of 5 was not a word to them, as Luke Pickett said. So I was very shocked in that somehow some of the teams that competed against each other this year. You normally see, Troy wouldn't play BYU, Coastal Carolina played BYU. You wouldn't see those two teams play normally every year. So it was a lot different than we're usually used to, but it was also kind of fun to watch some of these things.
And
play.
Troy played the same team twice, right, Ralph?
We played. They played Mid-Tennessee State twice this year. Did not play one conference game. I'm pretty sure the team just gave up at the end of the season. I'm not going to point out team names, but they Troy did play a full schedule. I'm pretty sure most Sunbelt teams did play a full schedule. I think except for one, not naming them again because they did give up at the end of the year.
Yeah. Well, I think, too, when you look at how these teams handle it, props to them. They did a great job. They went navigated through it. We got some comments we'll get to. We're going to be talking about the national championship. Galen Bailey comes in with Ralph, you're my hero. Galen, a good friend of Ralph, and also from what I've heard, a really good slow-pitch softball player. That, Ralph, that's what I've heard. So props to Galen on that. We also get one from Ronnie Smith. Plan on watching until the first touchdown, then time for a peanut butter and bologna sandwich. That is repulsive. Was that
part of the poll this past week?
That might have been part of the poll. Well, this is a Facebook comment, so I think this was actually just from watching the show last week, not getting their comment in. But peanut butter and bologna. I'll eat peanut butter banana. Peanut butter bologna,
I'll have bologna and mustard. That's as far as I'll go.
Yeah, but mixing a peanut – oh, my God.
That's too far. That's got to be a different age thing.
It is. Well, we appreciate everyone for tuning in. We talk a little bit about what's going on. We had a great first week of the year. Obviously, with the launching of Cook's Place's ad, which you'll see later on in the show today, we're open to more ads as well. If you'd like, email us at thecrowdedbooth.com or crowdedbooth@gmail.com. And you can also sign up today. We've had 20 signups in the past hour for our free newsletter that you can get. It's going to be all types of coverage, weekly mailbag. We think we're going to be doing some more stuff in the works as well. We have some projects planned, so make sure to sign up completely free. You don't have to pay us anything. If you'd like to, fantastic. I know we have some people that do. We appreciate that for that content as well. But we're going to get into a little bit of conversation, the national championship. I want to break this down from positions, okay? Not saying who's got the best quarterback, who's got the best running back, but I just want to talk about offense versus defense. I love that comparison. Will, when you look at this, we're going to lead off with you here. We're going to talk first about Bama's offense versus Ohio State's defense. Now, listen, Ralph pointed out last week in the show, Ohio State's defense had a field day, especially with the pass rush, a team that's not necessarily known for the pass rush. Obviously, they've had the Bosa guys, the Bosa brothers. They've had Chase Young, but they don't have a top 15 defensive end that's pass rusher that's going to get to the quarterback every time. It's a group effort. This defense showed out. Can they do it 2 weeks in a row against what's a team that probably has a better offensive line? Mac Jones, to me, he's not the greatest athlete, and he said that in his talking before the Heisman, but he gets the ball out very quickly. Will, can Ohio State's defense and their pass rush, can they affect Mac Jones and company?
Not like they did Clemson. You said it. Alabama has a better offensive line than Clemson. It's not even close. They got a national award, I'm pretty sure. Y'all can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But, you said it. They don't have that number one guy rushing the passer. So, it's a team effort. But the way Alabama plays, if they can just stuff the middle and kind of shut down the run game, they don't have to blitz. They don't really have to rush the passer. And that's the big thing. It's key. Anytime you're playing anybody, especially good teams, you try to make them one-dimensional. If Ohio State can stop the run tonight, they're going to have a great chance of beating Alabama. But if you let Alabama run the ball and be able to throw against you, you're going to have a tough day. Ohio State does have a really good secondary. I mean, they showed it against Clemson. But I don't think they have a guy that can cover Devontae Smith. And Jalen Waddle is going to be in warmups. He might play tonight. If Waddle is out there, even as a decoy. I mean, they can use Waddle even as a decoy. I mean, it's going to be tough sledding tonight for Ohio State.
Bryce, you're muted.
Thank you, Ralph. Even Waddle at 80% is dangerous. I mean, that's what he brings. Early in the season, to me, Jalen Waddle was the guy we all talked about. Devontae Smith is a great player, but Jalen Waddle was the premier guy we all talked about. He goes down. People wonder, when you look at Alabama's offense, can Devontae Smith, we know he's great, but can he take the step up? Obviously did. He won the Heisman. Ralph, for you, Will talked about how dynamic. To me, there's a big three. Mac Jones, Najee Harris, and Devontae Smith. If you shut down one, they're going to beat you with the other two. There's no way that you're going to shut down. We already talked about this. There's no way you're going to shut down the whole offense. But if you're a defense scheming against this, what do you do? I mean, from a schematic standpoint, you don't want – there's just too many weapons. But, Ralph, for you, when you kind of look at how you would stop, the only team that's really challenged them defensively, I feel like, or I'll go back offensively, we've talked about, was Ole Miss. But Ole Miss never stopped them. That's the problem. Ole Miss never stopped them. Defensively, when you kind of look – Georgia only allowed 20 in the first half, so there's that. The first quarter they played well, but it's almost a bend, don't break mentality against this Alabama offense.
Oh, yeah. And one thing is, we talk about Alabama's big three with Mac Jones, Najee, and Devontae Smith. If you stop those three, it's okay, because John Mechie, Miller Forrestall, and I always forget his first name, but the tight end Billingsley can beat you just as well as the other three guys can. I think Billingsley leads their team in yards per catch, if I'm not wrong. I think Josh Pate put out a tweet, watch out for this guy. I want to see how many yards he has at the end of the game. I honestly don't know how you would stop this team, their offense. Ole Miss couldn't do it. They just kept trying to score them. I don't think there's a defense that's really competed against them besides Georgia's the first half. But, like you said, bend don't break. I want to see some of the because I know Sean Wade, Ohio State's corner, he said he wants to match up against Devontae Smith the whole entire game. Good luck to him, because I don't think we've seen one person cover him all year. But Pete Warner, the linebacker for Ohio State, is going to be the guy I'm looking at tonight. He's going to be the playmaker. He's their play caller on defense. He does it all. Great pass rusher, great in coverage, and that's someone I can see making some plays tonight that could change the game.
And Ralph,
I want to talk about Sean Wade. I want to talk about Sean Wade real quick. He's a really good nickel corner.
Yeah.
Right. And but he's not good on the boundary. So it's going to be interesting to see how often Alabama has Devontae Smith in the slot, how many times they have him out on the boundary. I mean, I think that's the big matchup tonight.
Oh yeah, and that's probably the only matchup that a lot of people are going to be calling out, saying like, "Here's Sean Wade on Devontae Smith."
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, both of these guys are first round talents.
Oh, yeah.
Devontae Smith's a top 10 talent. Wade probably top 15. I'm not sure if he's top 10.
And against Clemson, Sean Wade kind of didn't do as well as I saw, but he also didn't face Devontae Smith against Clemson. I don't think Clemson has their number one receiver this year because Justin Ross has been out all year. So he's facing about 10 times better receiver than he did against Clemson. So that's the step up he has to make in this game to compete.
And you take into account Devontae Smith's size. He's not your prototypical boundary outside receiver. He's really an inside slot guy just by size and speed. But we've seen him play outside and be the best receiver in the country.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. It was skipping on there for me for a second. Will, when you look at what this team can do, the Alabama offense, we talked about the weapons. You talked about Sean Wade, what he can do. Go back to the Georgia game. Georgia came into that game, elite defenders. You had Eric Stokes. You had Tyson Campbell. When you look at what this team does and what they can do, I think the biggest thing is when they exploit, even when you didn't know there was something to exploit. Even after Ohio State's only played how many games? 7, 8 now? There's still things 8 games in that you're still learning about your team. So I think that's one defense is going to have to, adjust to. But I will echo what Ralph talked about last week and kind of hit on as well. I think Ohio's defense can surprise people. I don't think that Alabama's going to go and continue what seems like, 10. I think in every game but one, they've scored 35-plus points or something like that. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see what Alabama's done offensively. But I think this has a proving that you're going to have to make a big play. Whether it's Sean Wade with an interception, whether it's that defensive line working together as a collective unit, it's going to be something to see. We're going to get some comments here. Richard Leary, Ralph's uncle. Did you kill that deer, Ralph? Ralph, did you kill that deer?
I did indeed, actually.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. We have another one here. Richie Altman, good stuff, guys. We just shared it on the Southern Sports Central page. Appreciate you, Richie, up there in South Carolina, providing good coverage of South Carolina preps as well. And then Russell. It looks like Will is staring into everyone's souls. Russell, I think it's because we froze there for a second. Gotta love Nomad, sponsored by Nomad. Bama,
not really.
Bama's offense versus Ohio State's defense. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens. You really don't. We have another comment. Wages. Ralph, do you miss me?
More than anything.
Hey, Ralph, don't even answer the question. Just email thecrowdofbooth@gmail.com. Ralph will answer that question right over there for you. Bama's offense versus Ohio State's defense. We're going to get to, obviously, what is the next section of this conversation. Bama's defense versus Ohio State's offense. But we're not going to talk about it until we go right to commercial. You're watching The Crowded Booth here, Facebook, Live, Twitter, and YouTube. We appreciate you watching.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place, fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
That is Cook's Place in Columbus. They are open, like you said, 2 locations. Talked to Roy the other day. He said they are, as the kids say, this is literally verbatim what Roy Cook said. The place is popping. So I know Ralph went through the drive-through or saw the drive-through one the other day, and he sent us a picture. It was absolutely packed out. So go get yourself the best scrambled dog in town. We're going to talk a little bit more about the national championship. This time we're going to look at Alabama's defense versus Ohio State's offense. Now, when you look at this one, this is one where Justin Fields is the first thing that comes to mind in this situation. I'll ask very simple and plain here. You guys, open conversation. Justin Fields struggled big time. Northwestern, Indiana struggled in those games. He gets to Clemson, and he looks like the Heisman candidate that we all thought he was when he stepped foot on campus in Athens, and then obviously went up to Columbus, Ohio. Is he worked through the things, or is he still going to, maybe – I'm not saying he's going to throw 6 touchdowns, okay? We're not saying that. But can he still play up to the level back-to-back weeks against 2 very good defenses?
I think the big thing for Justin Fields is motivation. I think motivation is the big thing for Justin Fields. I mean, talk about how rough a year 2020 was. It's been rough on Justin Fields. He was one of the big players voicing that they want to play. And with the Big 12, the way they handled things was not great. It didn't look great. And I'm sure that that weighed on him. And he finally gets to some big games. Now, Northwestern, we know they have a great defense. I think they came into that game against Ohio State getting up like 15 points a game or something like that. So, I mean, Indiana is far and away probably the best defense he's played all year, maybe even better than Clemson's. But make no mistake, he's going to be motivated tonight. He's going to play with something to prove again like he did against Clemson because Ohio State, they're the underdog. I mean, they're number 3, but they were really number 4 on everybody's list as far as who made the playoff. So he'll be motivated, and, I've said it before, when Justin Fields is on, he's tough to beat.
He's tough to beat. I would argue he is, one of the best. I mean, and you don't have to argue. He's one of the best players in college football, no doubt about it, at the top of his game. We saw that last time out against Clemson. Ralph, for you, when you look at Alabama's defense, what they're going to have to do, the secondary is not as potent as we've seen in recent years. This is a game where I felt like if Lawrence and company and the Clemson would have won, they would have been able to throw the ball over the yard. You get Chris Olave back for Ohio State for the game against Clemson. We saw how that benefited. Ohio State still has some weapons. Don't forget about Trey Sermon out of the backfield as well.
Yeah, Trey Sermon's definitely one of the elite running backs in the league. Sadly, that he was overlooked past 3 years because he was at Oklahoma, didn't play as much. Also, Ohio State gets. I'm pretty sure they get Major Teague back, so that's another running back that's just as elite with their offense. Justin Fields obviously going to be playing banged up. We know this. Will that affect him playing? I mean, obviously he played against Clemson banged up, so. I don't see, this being a close, low scoring. I think it being a shootout with both defenses. I think if you look at it stats wise, both defenses are about the same. When points per game allowed, yards per game allowed, passing yards per game allowed, and rushing yards allowed. So it's going to be, there's a bloodbath in points. I feel like Alabama's defense could make a stop once or twice that could change the game. I feel like the secondary is young, but they've gotten better throughout the year. But having Chris Olave for Ohio State is going to be a matchup nightmare for Alabama secondary. So,
well, the best corner in the country is going to be guarding Chris Olave. I think the entire game. Patrick Surtain. So we'll see. He's a weapon for sure.
Oh yeah.
I think his impact will be severely limited by Surtain.
His impact will be limited, so when you shut down an option, where else do you go? And I think the big things is going to be when you see kind of what happens. If Olave's not going to be open, then what are you going to look at? We have some comments we're going to get back to here. It's going to be interesting. Mr. Roy Cook, he says right here, Ronnie, you'll be eating soon after the game starts, talking about that bologna sandwich. We appreciate you, Mr. Roy, sponsoring and show and being a part of the Crowded Booth. Wages, Carol, what are y'all's score predictions? Wages, we're going to get to that at the latter half of the show, so you stay tuned around you should stay tuned to around 45, the 45-minute mark. We'll be there. Wendell, is Eric Stokes playing, Will? Is that what he wants to know, the best corner in the country? If Eric Stokes transferred to Alabama at some point?
Yeah, Eric Stokes plays for Georgia.
He's an NFL player, sorry.
And
he doesn't play for Georgia anymore.
Well, I mean, he did. He already played a bowl game. That wasn't a playoff game, so he won't be there. And I don't think he's top 10 pick.
I don't think he played in the bowl game.
Did he play?
Wendell,
nope.
Bryce, you're the Georgia guy.
Wendell Barfield comes in when Shaun Wade's going to get toasted, and then Wendell comes back in with another one. Ohio State will revert back to their last 3 games of the regular season / the Big Ten championship game. It could happen. I mean, the ability to do that week in, week out is a hard thing to do. We'll see exactly. Wade just comes back in. Does Trey Sermon have any gas left in the tank? Go ahead, Will.
That's what I was going to bring up. Ohio State, their running game really came along at the end of the season. I mean, it won them the game against Northwestern. And you look at teams that have beaten Alabama in the 11 years Nick Saban has been there, 12 years he's been there. They run the ball, and they have elite quarterback play. Well, Ohio State's shown they can run the ball, and everybody knows they have an elite quarterback when he's on. So if Fields is on, I mean, they can hang with him, and they can beat him.
They can hang with him.
I want to see Justin Fields run, though. If Justin Fields runs one time and gets open field and he gets hit hard, are they going to call targeting again?
Oh, geez. If they call,
I can't imagine he's going to want to run much.
Yeah,
I can't imagine he'll run
that's
much
what I want
because
to
he's
see.
not 100%.
Because if he starts running more, it's going to be him sliding after 5 or 6 yards because once someone gets in the area of him, he has to go down. He takes one big shot, it could be devastating to the rest of their game.
Yeah. Well, and you talked about the run game came on late. This is an Ohio State team that averages almost 550 yards of offense per game. They're putting up the numbers. It's just they had some of those struggles against, like what you said, Will, a quality Northwestern defense. But I think when you look, they're more well-balanced. This is a well-balanced team. And I'll say this too. It almost gives you some vibes talking to some people of that 2015 Ohio State team where they had Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield and they had Cardell Jones. Now, I think that Justin Fields is better than Cardell Jones. Trey Sermon, I'm telling you, the way he's playing, he's almost on the same level of what Zeke was playing in that first playoff matchup. Will, when you look at what Ohio State's offense, this is a team, and I'll go back to the stats here. They average, this is a team that averages some high numbers. Let's take a look right here. They average almost 275 yards through the air. They run for almost 270 yards per game. I mean, that's one of the most efficient, well-balanced offenses we've seen. When you look at this, Will, balance is what's going to have to be. You can't be predictable against Alabama's defense. Does that help Ohio State going forward? Let's take a look. And before I let you answer the question, I'll say this. Take a look at some of the opponents they've played, okay? Florida, to me, non-existent run game. They pass the ball, one-dimensional. You make them easy, one-dimensional. Georgia, they had a little mailman boy as the quarterback. Couldn't do anything about it. Okay? Stetson played well, but Georgia was not balanced in that game. Ole Miss, they would run halfback draws after throwing a 40-yard pass, and they'd get 20 yards off of it because Alabama didn't know what to do. Now, obviously, that was week 3 or week 4. We've come a long way since then. Yep. But to me, offensively, Ohio State's got to go back to the drawing board and say, look how balanced Ole Miss was. We have better talent on the field. We have a better offensive line. Let's see, what can we do? Is balance the key in this game for Ohio State?
Absolutely. I mean, they don't even have to go back to the drawing board. You said it. They're averaging over 270 yards a game, rushing and passing. I mean, I've talked to some Alabama fans. There, not a lot. I've talked to several Alabama fans in the past week leading up to this game. None of them wanted to play Ohio State. All of them told me they would rather play Clemson because of the balance. The shorter schedule, playing less games, less banged up, just for a number of reasons. And they've beaten Clemson before, so they feel confident they can beat them again. But Ohio State, that's kind of the one game they want back. Was Ohio State in 2015 knocking them out in the first round of the playoffs. That same team you brought up earlier.
Yeah, and that team had great balance. This Ohio State team has balance. Ralph, I know we watched that Ole Miss game. Ole Miss, while they're not known as a dominant running team, when you spread a team out like Alabama like they did, Lane Kiffin did it perfectly. And unfortunately, Lane Kiffin's not going to be on the sidelines for Ohio State. But when you look at what the players – the personnel, there's a jump in talent, obviously. There is for what Ohio State has. I'm going to tell you one thing. If they throw a 25, 30-yard pass and they come back with a draw, Sermon's going to get at least 7 to 8 yards before he's touched because Alabama's going to be worried about making the big play. We talk all the time about chunk plays with Ohio State or with Alabama's offense. I feel like, and Ralph, you can speak to this. Ohio State, if they can get some chunk plays, they got to really feel good about how the momentum's going for them offensively.
Yeah, and that's one thing is about this game is momentum. You want to switch momentum every time, especially with Ohio State's offense with so many weapons that a lot of people don't know about. And Chris Olave no one really knew who he was beginning of the year because we didn't think that they were going to play. So they throw a 30, 40-yard pass downfield and get a first down, and then have a little draw play with Trey Sermon. He gets 15 yards. I mean, they're marching downfield every single drive doing this, and that could be shocking to Alabama fans, but it really shouldn't be because that's what everyone's done to you all year who's been successful.
I'll tell you this before we get to some more questions. We talked about the balance that Ohio State employs offensively. I gave you the yardage numbers. They have 180 total first downs this season, okay? 17 of those have come via the penalty, so 15-yard penalty, automatic first down. On the ground, they have 83. Through the air, they have 80. They're going to hit you. I mean, you cannot get more well-balanced than that. Now, obviously, on the other side, Alabama is one of the most well-balanced offenses. To me, their balance is two of the biggest things that these teams have going for them, and they're going to collide tonight at 8 o'clock. Let's get to some comments here. Wendell, They don't play no one, Paul. I know Ohio State doesn't play anybody. I can't stand it. The Big Ten's a joke. It's the worst conference in college football, in my opinion, out of the Power Five. I'd put the Pac-12 above them. I really honestly would. The Pac-12 at least has a bunch of teams that are going to go 7-5 and 8-4. I mean, they are. The Big Ten has who? Who do they have? They have Ohio State. They have Michigan, who's a joke and extended their coach for even longer. They have Michigan State, which, yeah, folks, Kirk Cousins isn't there anymore, so you can take a break off of that.
But
Minnesota,
Mel Tucker is.
Mel Tucker is, and that's fantastic. And he'll bring in some quarterback. They'll go 8-4, and it'll be great. Okay, then take a look at what's next down the line for Big Ten. Minnesota, the boat stopped rowing. No one cares about them anymore. Okay, you take a look at Northwestern. Woohoo, Chicago, great job. They're going to be like the Cubs in a couple of years. They don't play anybody, and it's fine. It's fine. When you look at the Big Ten, to me, it's a joke. I'm very passionate about it. Iowa, they're still playing football from 1955. So who cares what they do?
And it's beautiful. It's beautiful football.
Beautiful. They line up with a fullback, and it's amazing.
And Wisconsin, give it to the fullback. Fullbacks need
Stop
love.
hating on Brock Lombardi. I love it. We're going to bring in some more questions here. Hal, this is a great question. Your next question is a little bit of a joke question we'll get to. Hal Mansour watching the show today from, I think, beautiful Athens, Georgia. Do you think Nick Saban considers this a revenge game? Both of you guys hit on it.
Yes.
I don't think Nick's going to say it publicly. I really don't. No. But I think behind the scenes, he's preaching, guys, they don't think you have a shot. They think that it's going to be just like it was in 2015 because Alabama somehow always feels like they're the underdog. When you look in this game, I want to be honest. I want you to be honest. Is Nick Saban preaching at the team and it's not going to come out to the media?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
This team embarrassed you.
Rat poison.
Ago. Yeah.
He keeps that rat poison out of the locker room.
So this team embarrassed you a few years ago. You want to embarrass them tonight. This is on a bigger stage than it was last time. It was a playoff. It was the semifinal. Now it's the championship game. So I'm walking in here saying they want y'all to beat y'all again like they did last time. And then Nick's just preaching like, we're about to put our foot down on our throats right now and win this game.
Mm-hmm.
So.
They're going to preach the underdog mentality. Will, I think that's probably the best question we've had here. I got to cipher through all these questions. When you look, all these comments we got here, I'll hit you again. It would be worse if Urban was still there. If Urban Meyer was still there, that would be a showdown, an absolute showdown. Nick Saban to get revenge on one of the few coaches it feels like that beats him. And Will, I won't hit nail on the head too hard. I know Gus beat him.
Unemployed.
I know Gus, but Gus is unemployed, sitting on his porch with that $21 million that's going to be coming in. I will say this, and this is a part of the show that I want to introduce because I myself am not educated enough on it. Wages. Can you talk the point spread and where the action is for betting when y'all do scoring predictions? We can. We'll go to another commercial, and I get these two guys to talk about the point spread, kind of what you need to look for in that aspect. But listen, guys, it's going to be a fantastic game. There's no doubt about it. We're going to go to commercial one more time. We're going to be talking predictions, and we'll talk a little point spread and field some questions from you all to finish out the hour as we are about, 3 hours and 15 minutes away from kickoff down in Miami. We're going to get to the commercial.
Cook's Place began serving our signature hot dogs in 1985 from a cart on Broadway. We still serve the best hot dogs and scrambled dogs in town at the corner of Moon and Miller Road and at the landings. Our friendly staff won't let you leave hungry. Come in and eat to the beat with our 50s jukebox. Cook's Place, fast service, great people, awesome food. What are you waiting for?
All right, we're going to talk a little predictions. We're going to talk some more things here today. It is Natty time. It is finally here, January 11th. We made it. And listen, 2021, I'll tell you one thing. It's great about it is the Georgia fans are already excited about winning the national championship in 2022. So if you talk to them, that's always. We got an article coming back on that tonight.
Death taxes and next year is Georgia's year.
Let's talk a little bit about the point spread in this game. Now, Will and Ralph, I want to invite you in on this conversation because this is something that I'm not as well educated on. I want to invite you because what is the spread and kind of what should people be feeling here 3 hours and 15 minutes? And as Jalen Waddles, how much of an impact could that make on kind of how it goes?
So Alabama is an 8.5 point favorite.
9 now.
Oh, it's up to 9.
9.
It's up to 9. Wow. So it's growing as we get closer to kickoff, and I'm not really surprised by that. But that's a lot of points. I mean, to lay 9 in the national championship game is a lot. Definitely going to be high scoring. I know the over/under earlier in the day it was 75. which to me is a ton of points. I don't think we'll get to 75, believe it or not. I think the defenses can make enough stops, create a turnover or two to keep the scoring in the 30s. You want me to go ahead and give a score prediction, Bryce? You're going to hold on?
Not score prediction yet. We're going to hold that for the last 5 minutes of the show.
All right. So I don't think they'll reach 75.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's going to be close, though. It's going to be very close. Yeah, I don't know.
You wouldn't know. Wendell goes, he said the last 4 natties have gone over. Now, Ralph, when you look at this game, I think that the biggest thing is kind of what is the impact. Now, I know Wendell's saying that Waddle is a no-go. I don't know. I'm guessing what's happening is they're going to let him go through the workout kind of pregame, and we'll see what happens. Ralph, for you, if Waddle does play, or how would you side on this if you were a betting man and putting something on this?
Well, I'm not. So, I was also with Will. I knew it was 8.5 all day this morning. But I just saw it and checked. It was 9 now, and I think that came after when Waddle was announced that he might be playing tonight. Which, jumping at a half point and spread with just one player is shocking. You know, he's probably not 100. He's probably not going to be 100%. If Waddle does play, I don't know, like I said, we don't know if he is or not. It's not a big jump up for Alabama because he is not 100%, and Waddle 100% is a game changer, obviously. I do want to see if Ohio State can cover the spread. I believe they can. I don't think it's going to be like I said, if they win, it's going to be a high-scoring game. I would hammer the over, but I would not take the Alabama spread.
Yeah. This game gives me a strong feel. Now, of course, I always bring Auburn back into the conversation somehow. But this national championship game is kind of giving me vibes from the 2010 national championship game. Auburn versus Oregon, the 2 highest scoring offenses in the country. And that final score was 22-19. I don't think it'll be a defensive slugfest like that one, but just 75 is a lot of points.
It's a lot of points. I know Wendell pointed out the last 4 have gone over. We're going to give our score predictions here in a second to kind of talk about what that might look like. We talked about that. I want to get before we get to predictions, I want to get who is your, and I'll bring it on myself, who is the player of the game for you in this one? Who is a guy that is going to have to make an impact in order for their respective team to win?
For me, and it's defensively for Ohio State, it's Pete Warner. I've already said his name today. He's got to make some big play today. I know you look at him, he's smaller for a linebacker, but he is a great player. He's very smart on the field. He makes all the changes on the defense. Ryan Day trusts that man with his defense. He said, "I'm gonna put defense in your hands. You run it." And if he makes some big plays, and I'm saying it could be a lot more shocking of a game than everyone expects it to be.
We'll go with you now. Who you got?
Ralph, you go Ohio State. I'm going to go Alabama. I'm going Mac Jones. Mac, we know how good he is, but there's been the games that I guess it's the game. Has he only lost one game as a starter?
Yeah,
the Iron Bowl last year.
Oh, who was it too?
Wow,
they lost the Iron Bowl. That his first ever start. He threw 2 pick sixes in that game. Now I know that's a long time ago. Mac's a much better quarterback now than he was then, but if he turns the ball over, he's just going to kind of hand Ohio State the game like he did Auburn in 2019.
Mac Jones is a great player to look at. I like what you said as well when you look at Ohio State's defense as a collective unit. I think for me, it's going to be Alabama's offensive line. And I say that because as a unit, you lost your center in the SEC championship game. You played a Notre Dame team that was outmatched. Obviously, they have the great linebacker that will be a first-round pick this year. But when you look at this team and kind of what they want to do, they're going to have to get creative with blitzes. So as an offensive line, you're going to have great communication across the board. Do you have that with your backup center? We always talk about the 5 stars are loaded. It's the 2 deep is just a bunch of 5 stars. But when you look at what Alabama has to play for tonight, you have Leatherwood, who's going to be a first-round pick. You have a couple other guys who are going to be some dominant players. I think that from a standpoint, you're going to have great communication. You're going to have to keep Mac Jones clean. Like I said, he's not the greatest athlete in the world. He's not a runner. When he gets flustered out of the pocket, that is when teams can create some chaos. Notre Dame did that a little bit, but I think Ohio State has the better personnel if they can kind of get some pressure on them, they could force some bad situations. So I'm going to really watch for Alabama's offensive line as a unit to try to go through. Let's get some predictions from other people. Hunter says Justin Fields throwing for 5 touchdowns. Hunter, I think that you said that Justin Fields was going to throw for 4 against Clemson. I think you were almost right. He had 6. He heard it here first. I think Wages Carroll comes out with Justin Fields is going to put it in Saban's guts. There we go. Listen, you talked about the ribs. I'm telling you one thing. The guy's not healthy. Like, he's not 100%. And I almost said C.J. Mosley because I feel like every great Alabama linebacker wears number 32. But Dylan Moses, if he comes in and he hits him one time, or Surtain hits him, or one of these safeties hits him, or anybody, put any 350-pounder defensive lineman and insert quote here and put him there. That's going to
take a Herculean effort with Fields at 100%, and knowing that he's not, it'll go down as one of the best performances of all time if he can knock off Alabama.
It will. I think it's going to go down if they win this game. We're going to get predictions right here next. If they win this game, I'm going to tell you one thing. It's going to be one of the greatest games we've seen because they're not – I don't think – this is not going to be something where we saw Clemson blow out Alabama 2 years ago. This is going to be – to me, Alabama's either going to win it big or Ohio State can win it close. We're going to get predictions right now. Ralph, you go first. What is your prediction? Give me a score and kind of how you feel like the game's going to go.
Well, I feel like in the first half, it's going to be kind of back and forth at first for the first quarter. The second quarter's going to slow down. I think teams are starting to realize what we can do to stop them. The second half is going to be a shootout. I feel like it's going to be back and forth the whole game. The team that makes the first stop is going to win the game. I have Alabama winning 45-40. And that being that high score in the game for this big of a game is shocking to me in the first place. I do think it's going to be one of those, whoever has that last score of the game or makes that big stop at the end of the game is going to win it. So
the big plays are going to be for me. I'll get to mine here after Will. Will, you go ahead. What is your prediction score? Give me what you got going on.
Well, this is a heavyweight fight, no doubt about it. And in most heavyweight fights, the early rounds, the fighters are feeling each other out. I think it's going to be low scoring, especially first quarter, probably first half will be low scoring as well. I think both teams are going to come out trying to run the ball and try to get a feel. Can they get something in the running game? But the passing games are going to show the big plays. Like you said, it's going to be a game of big plays. Still high scoring. I agree with Ralph. Points will start coming in the second half. I'm going to take Alabama 35-31.
So you're going with a close game as well. I want to get into my prediction. I want to preface it with this is going to be like 2 heavyweight boxers in the first couple of rounds just feeling each other out. You're going to see guys kind of see where they can exploit. You're going to see some things. I know that's what you said. They're going to – I agree with you, Will. I think they're going to try to feel each other out. I think they're going to try to see what exactly is the weaknesses. These are teams that haven't played any common opponents. They haven't – I mean, you got to remember these teams did not have non-conference play, both of these teams. So there's nothing that you can look at. For Ohio State, they are probably going to look at what in the world did Ole Miss do that was success? What did Florida do that had success in the second half? To me, Alabama, if they go up big, they're not going to make the same mistake that they made against Florida. And I think they kind of made the same mistake. They kind of took their foot off the gas pedal and allowed a very talented quarterback, Justin Fields, Kyle Trask, to make a comeback. Ohio State, I'll say it right now, they're better than Florida. I think they are. I really think that the Ohio State team is a better team than Florida. You can argue all you want about the fact that they don't play anybody, and that's completely true. The Big Ten's not very good. But on paper, they also have a more competent head coach at the helm than Dan Mullen. And so I think that when you look at what Ohio State can do, all that to say, I think that Alabama is going to win this one. I gave my prediction. I'm going to stay with it earlier. I think Alabama's defense tightens, and we see the offense of Ohio State struggle late in the third and into the fourth. Alabama puts up a couple scores. I'm going 38-24. I think that Alabama wins by 2. I think it's going to be a close game. Like you said, we've all kind of said maybe 17-14 or something like that at halftime. I think Ohio State's going to surprise people. I think Ohio State grabs the momentum early. That seems to happen sometimes in Alabama games. But I'm telling you one thing, the Crimson Tide, Nick Saban, they're going to get better as the game goes along, and we're going to see what happens. Well, listen, it's going to be great. Wages, thank you so much, sir. Wages might have to be our intern. The graduate of Georgia Tech might have to be the intern. Ralph 45-40, Will 35-31, and Bryce 38-24. We're all picking the Tide. Are we a little bit biased because we're in the Southeast? We might be, but I'm going to tell you, folks, Alabama
Yeah.
is a unreal team.
Keep the receipt, Wages. Keep the receipt.
Guys, we got 5 more minutes. We also don't have any programming afterwards because we're an independent little company here. Talk to me about this. We'll talk about this Wednesday, but I want to ask you this question, and I'm putting it up here in a second, and I want honest answers only, and I really want to know. Alabama's offense, we've talked about how good they are, correct? We've talked about what in the world they've done. We talked about a team last year that was pretty good. Begs the question. Last 5 minutes of the show. Who are you taking? Who are you taking?
I'm on this. LSU all day.
LSU.
I'm taking LSU, man.
Because
That might be one of the greatest teams.
You want to go position by position? Just start. I'll just do the offense. I think Burrow is better than Mac Jones. I think Najee Harris is better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but I think there was more depth and better receivers at LSU. Just look at the top. Really, I think the top two, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, I think was a better duo, especially for what they wanted to do. Now, I know this year it was cut short, Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. We didn't get the full season of them. If we did, I would probably be saying it the other way around. But and I think LSU's defense was better.
Yeah, LSU had a better defense. You have the combination of obviously Stingley was playing last year. He didn't play this year. You have Kayvon Chason, who was a first-round pick. You had that defensive line that was intact. Yes, Patrick McQueen, linebacker. I think it's probably a better team. I don't know. We got to end the show here in a second because a certain person just joined. Austin, you say LSU by 10 plus. I'm going to hook it up on Collegeville Revamped. We need to give a shout out to those guys. I'm just going to see if we can sponsor them on the show because they're fantastic when they do the NCAA 14 football game. Ralph, I want to get your opinion real quick. Are you staying with LSU, though? Are you saying LSU is just a better team?
Well, I think Alabama's defense was better in 2019. They still couldn't stop Joe Burrow and LSU. So I definitely give it to LSU. Their offense was unreal. I mean, they didn't really need a defense, honestly. They went out there and scored, 7 touchdowns against Oklahoma in the playoff game, and then just went and just dismantled them in that game, and then went and destroyed Clemson in the championship game.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see teams do that every year. So it's one of those one-and-done teams. It's okay. It's fun to watch. You enjoy watching them win.
Joe Burrow had a heck of a season, but we're going to be able to watch tonight the national championship of college football. I don't know, guys, until we talk recruiting. It's going to be the last time we're talking football for a while, but, man, it was a fantastic thing to get through the 2020 season. I'm thankful for it, and here's to hoping that we get to see 90,000 packed out in Bryant-Denny, 90,000 packed out in Sanford Stadium. I think 90,000 packed out in Jordan-Hare. 100 plus.
86,000.
86. Since this one person just joined the show, 100 plus, no, probably like 15,000, probably still be in Neyland Stadium. That's all the time we have for today. We appreciate you watching. Join us back here on Wednesday. Make sure to sign up the Crowded Booth. We're hitting almost 25. We had 7 more here in the hour. Join for free. We got some great stuff coming out, including a piece on what the Bulldogs of Athens are going to be returning offensively and why people should think that they're going to win the national championship. It's going to be a fun piece next year. We're going to be talking about it the rest of the week. We had the podcast last Friday. We got another great guest coming on that we're going to announce later this week. It's going to be a ton of fun. So thanks for watching. For Will, for Ralph, for myself, Bryce, tune in, email us. The mailbag is starting now. We already got some great questions that are coming in, and we're going to be filling those out and kind of we need an intern. We need someone to go through this stuff and figure out what in the world we actually need to get. But we're going to be appreciating everything as well. We thank you for watching, and hopefully you have a great night. And boys, as we say it here on the show, please keep your stick on the ice.